was saying, you finished mission two? Uh-huh. Yeah. It wasn't always like that, obviously. But let me tell you the story of how it fell out. Well, how it was taken out. Better yet, why it was taken out. So, anyways, a couple years ago, I ended up going to California, San Diego. I ended up driving there. So I drove to San Diego, California. And while I'm out there, I didn't really have any place to go. I was just on a spiritual journey with God like I am now. But yeah. So as I'm driving, I get there, and when I get there, it's like I'm living in my car. I don't have anywhere to go. I'm staying at the beach. I'm sleeping at the beach. Yeah, they had shelters out there, but I didn't like the shelters. Plus, I had my dog with me at the time, so it was just me and my dog. We was just sleeping in the car, whatever, whatever. And long story short, I end up buying. I don't know, for some reason I went to the liquor store and I bought me some Parmesan, a small bottle of Parmesan, and I drank it. And then next thing you know, I ended up at the military base. So, so I ended up at the military base, and they ended up impounding my car. They ended up taking my dog to a impound, and they locked me up for DWI. And I believe, well, I don't believe, but I know that it was God then, and I know that it was God now that protected me. That He literally, they're saying, Jesus, take the wheel. Jesus literally had the wheel at that time, because the roads down there are so crazy and so like curvy and stuff like that. And so when I was driving, I could have easily drove off the cliff, but I didn't, because God is good and He kept me. He had other plans for me. So I ended up driving to the Navy base, because San Diego is a military town, for those who you don't know. And so when I get to the military base, like I said, they impounded my car, they locked me up, they took my dog to the impound, and now I'm in county jail in California. And so let me just fast forward. And actually, I don't really want to fast forward because it's story time. So, anyways, so as I am in county jail, my cellmate ends up being a Satanist. She has the 6 point stars and all of this type of stuff on her wrist. And it's just crazy. And so long story short, it's my day to go to court. I go to court, and I freaking they said that being that I was in a new state, it showed that I didn't have a record. So they said that being that you don't have a record, they're just gonna give you a fine. I believe they gave me a fine, and I had a like I was supposed to do some class. I think I don't really remember. It was this was like 2019, but yeah, that's what happened. And so long story short, I keep saying that, but anyways, so as I got out, after I got out of that, that's when I actually, after I got out of freaking county jail, I ended up meeting this girl who was getting out the same time as me, and I didn't have anywhere to go because I didn't have my car. So I'm like, damn, what am I? Not damn, but excuse me, God, but like, what am I gonna do? And so she was like, you come with me, this and that, whatever, whatever. I'm like, all right, bet. So I ended up going with her. So when I went with her, we ended up going to one of her mom actually picked her up, and her mom dropped us off at some dude's house. So we was at I guess it was her boyfriend's house. And so while we was there, that's the first time I tried crystal meth. And I just want to say that I loved it. But anyways, after I tried it, I just felt so convicted. I felt so guilty. I was like, God, please forgive me. I was crying on the back of the balcony. I was just like, Lord, I'm sorry. Still high. Like, Lord, I'm sorry. Da 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 da. Whatever, whatever. Long. Okay, moving on. So as the after that day goes by, they dropped me off. I don't remember where they dropped me off at, but long story short, I ended up finding out where my car was. So I was trying to get up some money. It cost like, I think it was like, the longer your car stays in the impound, the more money it costs. But at this time, I think it was like $400 to get my car out. Mind you, I didn't even have car insurance because I couldn't pay my car insurance, so there's no car insurance on the car. So in order for me to get my car out the impound, I had to get insurance on the car. So I didn't know what to do. I was calling my peoples. They ain't really, you know what I'm saying? They ain't had the funds to really help me or whatever the case may be. And I ain't really have nobody else that could really help me, you know what I'm saying? So I was just like, dang, like, what am I gonna do? And so I'm sleeping at the freaking cuz the impound was 24 hours. So I'm sleeping in the lobby area on the floor with me and my dog. We just camping out. And I'm saying, as the people come there, I'm just asking them if they can help me. I don't know. I'm just asking if they can help me get my car out the impound and stuff like that. So long story short, I was like, you know what, let me get up out of here. So I ended up leaving the car impound. So I'm walking. This is daytime now. Now I'm walking and I'm running to some guy, some white guy. He this white guy, older guy, he's like 70 years old. So he's walking up the street and I'm like, excuse me, can you help me? At this point I think I was trying to get something to eat or something like that, or whatever, or something like that. And so as I'm walking, I was like, excuse me, can you help me, can you buy me something to eat, this and that? And he was just like sure, sure, or whatever. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I'm like, really? And he was like, yeah, or whatever. And he was like, what are you doing over here? This and that. I'm like, yeah, no, my car got impounded, this and that. I'm trying to get it out, whatever, whatever. Long story short, not long story short, but as the time goes on, I end up getting in his van or whatever. And, when I got in his van, it was just like he seemed okay. Like he didn't seem like a weirdo. You know what I mean? And so I got in the van and then what happened? So I got in the van and I don't really remember everything verbatim what happened, but as time went on, he was like giving me these offers. He was like, oh, matter of fact, yeah, that's when it all boils down to it. When it came down to it, he was like, oh, I'll get your car out for you. And I'm like, what? Like, I was just like, what? You gonna get my car out for me? He was like, yeah. And he was like, how much is it? Da, 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 da. At this time, it was like five and some change or something. It was like $500 or whatever. And then he was like, yeah, I'll get your car out, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but you gotta have insurance on it. He was like, well, I can do that, this and that. He was just like, you know what I'm saying? He was just doing the most. But I wasn't thinking nothing of it. I was just like, okay, well, this is God just sending me somebody that's gonna help me out. And I'm like, oh, whatever. And so he was like, yeah. So he was like, he even said that I can come stay with him, like I can come live with him, this and that. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, I don't have a job, this and that, I can't really pay. He was like, yeah, no, you don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Now, it sounds kind of crazy now, but as I'm saying it, but at the time, like I said, I wasn't thinking like that. Like my mind was not like there. I was just thinking like, okay, this is God sending somebody to help me or whatever. So as the time went on, he ended up getting my car out the impound. You know what I'm saying? He ended up getting my car out the impound, paying for it or whatever. He paid the money to get it out. I had, mind you, all my stuff that I moved with from New York, all my stuff was still in the car. So, you know what I'm saying? So it turns out he was like, yeah. So I'm like, so he gave me the money. Boom. Yeah, that's what happened. He paid for me to get the car out the impound, and then he also paid me like $500 to buy my car. He was like, and I'll buy a car. He was like, how much do you want from it or whatever? And I didn't want to ask. I don't know why I asked. I don't even know how I got $500, honestly. But I was just like, he gave me $500 or something like that. It might have been 6, 7. I don't know. It wasn't that crazy though. So he ended up giving me the money. So he ended up getting my car out the impound and he bought it from me. So he bought my car from me. So after that, I'm like, yeah. So matter of fact, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you know what? Um, I'm about to go back to New York. And I did have to get my dog. I had to get my dog at the impound too. So I did that. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm about to go. I'm about to go back to New York. This and that or whatever. And he was like, you don't have to go back to New York. You can stay here. This and that. Whatever, whatever. I'm like, nah, nah. Um, nah, I can't do that. I gotta go back. This and that. Whatever. I don't even remember like why I had to go back, but I went back. So I ended up buying a ticket, going back to New York. So I went back to New York. I went back. Um, and then what we kept in contact. So I was like, you know what, I'll come back. He was like, yeah, if you want to come back, I'll pay for your ticket to come back, this and that, whatever, whatever. I'm like, all right. Matter of fact, he was an editor. That's what his job was. He was an editor. He said he was an editor for a magazine or something like that. He was an editor, a writer, or something like that, or whatever. I'm like, all right. So yeah, he was like, yeah. So if you want to come back, just let me know, and I'll buy you a ticket, this and that. I'm like, all right. So I get back to New York and I kept in contact with him or whatever. And then, long story short, You know what I'm saying? I stayed in New York for like a couple weeks, like 2 weeks or whatever, and I ended up going back to Cali. I'm like, you know what, matter of fact, I'm out. And I ended up giving my dog up too because they was on some like, oh, you can't, I couldn't bring my dog on a bus because he ended up buying me a bus ticket. And he was like, yeah, you can't bring your dog on a bus, this and that. Well, meanwhile, my dog was a service animal. Long story short, I'm like, okay, well, this is God testing me, to see if I'm gonna give up this dog or whatever. So that was my way of thinking. I don't know. I was just seeing things like crazy, not crazy, but that's how I was just viewing it. So I ended up giving up my dog, and I took her to the impound. Then I got on a bus and I went back to Cali. So when I got back to Cali, he was waiting at the bus stop to pick me up. Now, the bus ride on Cali, to Cali, a bus ride, I think it was like 2 days. I think it's like 2, 3 days, something like that. So I ended up getting back to Cali. When I got back to Cali, he took me to this house. And he was like, yeah, you can stay. It was a nice house or whatever. And he stayed in like, it was like I guess the guest house. And it was like in the backyard, there was like another house in the backyard. And it was a guest house. So he was like, yeah, I'll stay back here or whatever. I'm like, all right. So he was like, yeah, you can stay here, this and that, get a job until you get on your feet, whatever, I'll help you out, I just want to help you out, this and that, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, all right, I know it's a long story, but listen, if you don't want to hear the rest of it, just click off the video. But anyways, so we chilling, whatever. So he starts cooking, like he's cooking sushi, he's cooking this, he's cooking that, and then he has like this liquor cabinet. We have like mad different types of liquor. So, like I said, I don't drink. I'm not a drinker, and when I do drink, it's just I'm not the same person. So anyways, I start drinking and I start mixing my alcohol, this and that, and I'm getting lifted. And mind you, I'm walking with God, but like I said, I wasn't in the same place that I am now. Like my relationship with God now in 2025 is not the same as it was in 2019, because 2019 honestly was when I first started walking with God. Is when I came to God and decided like, yo, listen, Jesus, I want to, what I'm saying, I want to walk with you. I want to do things your way. And I was like, I surrender to God. But lo behold, I didn't really surrender like I am surrendering now. But the point is that I was still drinking, I was still sniffing coke. I was popping pills still, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't really surrender everything to God, but I wanted to. But the point is, as we're drinking, I'm drinking, I get drunk, I'm drunk now, okay? So as I'm drinking, freaking, I don't know. Oh yeah, we ended up going to there was like a hot tub, jacuzzi type stuff. So I get in a hot tub and jacuzzi, whatever. And then he gets in, but when he gets in raw dog. Like he has no boxes on, no nothing. And I'm like, oh no, like, and I got up out of there. I'm like, nah, he wildin'. And so we ended up going back in the house. And then I don't really know. I kind of fake like blacked out because I don't really know what happened after that. The only thing I really remember is that he was giving me head. Okay. He was giving me head. And then the next thing, like I was trying to leave. Like, I don't know. He was giving me head. And then I was just like, oh, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not staying here or whatever, this and that. And then he was just like, what? He was just like, he was livid. He was tight. He was like, oh, he was like, I ate your effing pee, da 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 da, woo, woo. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I'm leaving or whatever. So I had my phone, this and that. And he grabs my phone, this and that. And so I grabs it back or whatever. And then I try to run. Matter of fact, yeah, I try to run out of the space where we was going. And I ended up falling. I don't know how I fell, but I fell and he picked me up and brought me back in the freaking inside the house, inside the beach house or whatever it's called. And so we back in the house, and then next thing I know, I don't know, and I'm just like, yo, I want to leave. He was like, I don't really remember the conversation too vividly, like what was being said, this and that. I know that he ended up breaking my phone, but before he broke my phone, when I was walking, before I ran out the apartment, I seen a book on his on one of the stands by the one of this recliner. It was like a little stand, book stand by his recliner, and the book was Lovely Bones. Okay. The book was Lovely Bones. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Lovely Bones, but the movie is crazy, okay? And so I'm like, oh, shoot, you know? And then next thing I know, he throws me against this like mirror, and then I fall, and then he's on top of me, and then he's just pounding on my face like boom, 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 like you FMP. Like he's pounding on my face, real talk. He could have killed me. He could have really killed me, and nobody would have knew, son. He could have killed me. And now, next thing you know, I don't know. I just like, I guess he was like, he just started having sex with me, and I was fake like conscious, but I wasn't conscious, but I was awake, but I wasn't. It was weird, but I knew what he was doing. And next thing you know, I just passed out. Like I just went to sleep, and he just did what he did. And then when I woke up, like not in disbelief, but in a kind of like disbelief state of mind, like, yo, what the, like, son, like, yo, what just happened, son? And then he had some perks, and he was like, he gave me some perks, and like I just took the pills, and then he dropped me off at the terminal, and I never seen him again. And then long story short, this tooth was chipped from him beating me in my face or whatever. And so when I got back to New York, I went to the dentist, and I was like, yeah, they couldn't salvage it, they couldn't save it. They was like, yeah, we gotta take it out or whatever. So I'm like, all right, take it out. And that's why this tooth is gone. Yep. But yeah, so that's what happened. I got drunk, I got raped, I got beat, I could have got killed. But, glory to God, I'm still here, and I'm still here for a reason. And I believe that that reason is to tell my story, share my story. I don't know if there's anybody who's been through the same thing, been through similar things, but just know that when things like this, like what happened to me, things like that happen, it's not to draw us away from God and blame God and be like, oh, well, if there's a God, then why did God allow that to happen? It's not, listen, bad things happen to good people, and it's not because that there's not a God. It's just that, God is God, and he knows what is going to break us, and he knows what is not going to break us. And I'm not saying that, God allows us to go through things because he wants to see how strong we are. No, he already knows how strong we are. He already knows that we're going to overcome it. He already knows that it's going to draw us either closer to him or further away from him. And that situation didn't make me turn away from God, because I just ran closer to God, because it was just like, it could have been worse. Like he could have really lovely bones me. Like like he could have really lovely bones me. Like in that movie, like the little girl died. Like he could have really like did some things to me, and nobody would have knew. So it was like, I just thank God that it could have been worse, and it wasn't. So I just wanted to share that testimony, because because like I said, like God is the orchestra of everything, and he's in control of everything. And if it wasn't for God, I know for sure that I would not be here. Like me driving, if you see the roads in California, like they have no borders. The highways, like where I was driving at, they had no borders, and I was drunk driving. How did I not drive off a cliff? God had the will, and he drove me to the freaking military base, and they locked me up. It could have been worse. I could have died. But, instead of looking at the situation like, dang, I got locked up, I got a DUI. No, I thank God, because listen, I could have died. And I say that to say that, God is in control of everything. And, he's the reason why we wake up each day. He's the reason why we have breath in our lungs. So it's like, why do we live a life? Why do we live this life, live our lives the way that we want it to, when it's not even us who give us air to breathe? It's not even us who are in charge of our lives. Like God is in charge of everything. Even if you think that you live in the way you want to, you really aren't. Because if you really want to get technical, like, I'm not trying to take it elsewhere, but these are just facts. Like, when it comes to society, and then when it comes to the law, when it comes to God's law, and when it comes to the world's law, is either you gonna listen to the world or you gonna listen to God. Either way, you're listening to somebody. Either way, you're living your life according to the way that somebody else wants you to live it. So you're living in your life according to how society is telling you to live it. So why stand with the world and be judged by God when you could just stand with God and be judged by the world? Why gain the whole world and lose your soul? Yeah, people be like, oh, YOLO this, YOLO that. But, and this is my life. You only live once. Yeah, but you died twice. Like, you can die. Like, I just got a revelation for this yesterday. God told me, he was like, when we die, we don't die. We get put to rest. But that's a whole nother story. I'm not going to get into that. But the point is that, why live this life the way that you want to when you're not, in all actual reality, you're not living the way you want to. You live in the way that the world is telling you to live. They say, oh, if you want to be happy, do this. If you want to have be in a relationship, you got to be this way. You got to dress this way. You got to look like that. You got to talk like that. You got to listen to this. You got to do that. You got to do that. So do these things. Follow these things. Do what I say. Do this. Do that. This is what the world is telling you to do, and you're doing it thinking that, oh, this is your law. This is my life. I live it the way y'all want. No, you live in the way that the world's telling you to live. So why not live by God's word? Why not live by God's law? Why not live the way God's telling you to live and go to heaven and be with him for all eternity? But no, instead you want to YOLO because you think it's your life and you living it the way that you want, but yet you're living it the way that society is telling you to live, and you gonna burn for all eternity. You gonna go to hell for thinking that this is your life, and it's not, because our life is not our own. Our life belongs to Jesus. Our life belongs to God. He gives us breath and he takes breath. He's the only one that wakes us up in every morning. So why not live for him? Why not? Why not live for Jesus when he died for us? So I know I just went to the left a little bit, but it is what it is. The point is, that's how I lost this too, and it didn't draw me away from God. No, anything that I've been through, all the things that I've been through in my life, it didn't draw me away from God. It brought me closer to God. It's because of God that I'm here. It's because of God that I'm alive. Son, I done been in so many situations. Like, I should be dead. Like, there's no way. I should be dead. Like, I used to take so many drugs. I used to do so much pills. Like, boy, like, you don't even know, son. I used to be in a hotel room for like 3 days sniffing coke, like, just going at it. I could have OD'd so many times, but God, I am here because of God. So I'm going to live for him. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, because just know this not your life. Your life is not yours. Your life don't belong to you. You're not alive because you wake you up every morning. You wake up every morning because God says, listen, there's a task assigned to your life that I need you to accomplish before my son comes back. But you ain't gonna know that task if you don't know me. So my advice to you is to know the Father, get to know who he is. And that's the only way that you will know who you truly are. Because everybody in this world is lost. Everybody's a lost soul without Jesus. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And without him, you are damned. You're doomed to eternal hell. You're doomed. So I say that to say, repent, give your life to Jesus, run to him, call to him, get to know him, because he want to know you. He already know you, but he want to know you, and he wants you to know you, because you don't know who you are. I don't care how old you are. You don't know who you are. If you don't know Jesus, you don't know who you are. If you don't know Jesus, you don't know how to love. So if you're in a relationship and you think, oh, I love them, you're lying. You don't know what love is. Because love is someone who lays down their life for a friend, and Jesus laid down his life for us. That's love. And you can't say that you love anybody if you don't love Christ. And you can't say that you love Christ if your life don't speak for itself. If your actions and the way that you live in don't say, yeah, I live for Jesus, then you a liar. And the truth ain't in you. But guess what? Jesus loves you anyway. But just because he loves you don't mean that he won't punish you. Just because he loves you don't mean that when the time comes and he asks you, what did you do with the life that I gave you? How did you give my name glory? How did you go out and glorify me with your life? How did you do that? And you're not going to have an answer. You know what he going to say to you? He going to say, depart from me. I never knew you. He going to say, turn away from me. Get out my face. And he going to send you to hell. And that's just going to be what it is. And this is facts. So I advise you guys to really like get to know Jesus get to know God before it's too late. Like really sit and think, like all the things that you've been through, those times that whatever you did, whether you got in a car with people you wasn't supposed to get in the car with, whether you was drinking and driving and you don't know how you got home, whether you did a e-pill and took a bad trip and you came back from that trip. There's people that go on trips, they never come back. And they be gone forever. But you're not going forever. You came back. So I'm pretty sure that if you sit right now and think about a time that you got through something, it ain't thank me. It ain't thank you. It's thank God. So give him the praise when the praise is due. And that's all the time. Peace.